right, good morning, everyone. We're here for a hearing of the Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection. It is Tuesday, March 21st, 9:30 a.m. in Conference Room 325. First up on the agenda this morning, we have Senate Bill 966 relating to disposal of solid waste. This allows as punishment for felony disposal of solid waste, imprisonment of not more than 5 years, allows as punishment for felony disposal of solid waste, and petty misdemeanor of solid waste, forfeiture of any vehicle used in the commission of the offenses. And first up to testify is Department of Health. In support, Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. In support, Climate Protectors, Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. In support, we have Kauai Climate Action Coalition with comments, and then 1 individual in opposition and 4 in support. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? Members, questions? No. All right. All right, we will move on to the next bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 54, relating to gas-powered leaf blowers. So this prohibits the operation of gasoline-powered leaf blowers in any urban land use districts, increases the amount of fines for offenses of leaf blower restrictions, and provides for the forfeiture of gas-powered leaf blowers upon a 3rd violation, and removes the exemption on leaf blower restrictions for government agencies. First up to testify is Department of Transportation on Zoom, not present. Department of Health.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair. My name is Sean Haroon. I'm with Department of Health, Noise Section, and we stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have Department of Education.
Aloha, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Cochran, members of the committee. Jeremy Koki with the Office of Facilities and Operations for the DOE, testifying on behalf of the department. The department stands on its written testimony with comments for this measure. Well, thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And the Attorney General on Zoom, not present. Oh, hi.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair. Deputy Lyle Leonard testifying in opposition. The department's identified a preemption issue, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And City and County of Honolulu in opposition, not present. Outdoor Power Equipment Institute in opposition. Retail Merchants of Hawaii in opposition, not present. And then we have additional 14 individuals in support and 2 in opposition. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure?
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ted Boland, testifying as an individual. I acknowledge the concerns of the Attorney General. I used to be a Deputy Attorney General myself, and there is a preemption issue when you regulate on the basis of air pollution for a type of equipment like gas. But this is not a air pollution regulation. This is a noise regulation as currently drafted. And you have my written testimony. I have a proposal to make it more clear that this is a noise ordinance and not an air pollution ordinance. The current definition of gasoline-powered leaf blower means any leaf blower that is powered by a 2-stroke internal combustion engine. And I would add to that the words, that is rated for noise emissions of greater than 65 decibels at a distance of 50 feet, which is a standard that's been adopted by some other jurisdictions, municipalities. So I want to make clear this is an amendment that would clarify the noise regulation rather than the fuel type or air pollution regulation, and therefore I don't think there is a preemption problem as outlined by the Attorney General. I would ask the committee to pass the bill with that amendment, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? Members, any questions? I guess Attorney General? It was also my understanding when we heard this House version of the bill earlier that the concerns about the preemption issue would be addressed by making this about noise pollution, which is clearly a real issue. So what are your
I think the
comments on
problem
that?
is that, by identifying gasoline powered and then banning it based on the type of fuel is an emission, you're setting up an emission standard. I think the case law is clear that that's the case. For example, in the car, motor vehicle sections, specifically statutes that ban, for example, gasoline-powered cars or anything, or set up a sales restriction that in favor of zero-emissions vehicles, those were found preempted. So here, it's pretty clear that the bill, and then if you look at the history of the bill, it started off about emissions, et cetera. And at this point, I think you're raising a lot of issues with the current construction of the bill. I think there are some possibilities, like in other jurisdictions, they've done permitting, noise permitting, and that would identify closer to, something that wouldn't be preempted, and that's a situation as well. But I think at this time, it's too late to really change course on this.
Do you know what the decibel level of a gas-powered leaf blower is versus an electric leaf blower?
Yeah, and there are different studies that show different things, but I think, in certain studies say about 90, and above, certain like gasoline would operate at that level, and slightly below would be the electric-powered ones. But setting up a strict decibel level tends to create enforcement problems. I think DOH can speak to that. If you say set up a decibel level, but noise tends to dissipate over distance. So if you set up a distance
Sure.
requirement, then you would have maybe a possibility where either gasoline or electric could meet the noise level at a distance. But so it's sort of difficult to set a direct decibel level. And in other jurisdictions where they've used a permitting system, it's actually the manufacturers that have to certify the level. So that would be sort of more of an objective standard rather than just a straight decibel level.
Okay. And I guess, although everyone always brings up enforcement as an issue, enforcement is always an issue, but clearly I think there's demonstrated deterrent effects of passing laws.
Right.
Yeah, okay, thank
Okay,
you. Other questions, members? If not, we will move on to Senate Bill 506 relating to consumer protection. First up to testify, we have Hawaii Public Utilities Commission.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Vice Chair. My name is Nikki Morimoto, and I'm here on behalf of the Public Utilities Commission. We stand on our written testimony, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have the Hawaii State Energy Office on Zoom. Oh, in person.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is John Chin, Hawaii State Energy Office. We stand on our written testimony with comments. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And then USC Schwarzenegger Institute in support. Hawaii Energy Marketers Association.
Good morning, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Cochran, members of the committee, Representative Privilege. So, Myung Oh here to testify on behalf of Hawaii Energy Marketers Association. We stand on a written testimony in opposition. What we see this bill as primarily education and awareness. Basically, you're at the gas pump. There would be a warning label that says, there are long-term effects to your health and the environment. If it is truly education and awareness, it should start at an early age in schools, mentors, in the home, not necessarily while you're filling up your gas tank. At the very least, what is written as provided in our testimony does provide safety labeling issues, truly safety labeling issues. It's for life and safety. So to the extent that it may distract further for consumers while they're at the pump, we do stand on our written testimony in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Climate Protectors Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Cochran, members of the committee. Ted Boland on behalf of the Climate Protectors Hawaii. In strong support of this bill. There are a lot of toxic elements in gasoline that affect human health. Use of fossil fuels is also very bad for warming the climate. When we want to educate people about tobacco, we start in the schools, but we also have labels on the cigarette packs when you use it. And I would suggest that the pump is the appropriate place for a warning to people about the health risks and the environmental risks of using gasoline when they're pumping, and in the hopes that people will switch to safer environmental alternatives. So the Climate Protectors are in strong support of the bill, available for questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And then we have Green Mobilists Sweden in support. And then 4 additional individuals in support, 3 in opposition. It looks like we have Patricia Nolan signed up, not on Zoom. Anyone else here to testify on this measure? If not, members, questions? All right, if not, we'll move on to the last bill on our agenda. And this is the DoCare accreditation bill, so relating to Conservation and Resources Enforcement Program, requires DLNR to pursue and obtain accreditation for DoCare officers from the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. And first up to testify is DLNR.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Jason Redula, DoCare's chief. The department will stand on its written testimony in support of this measure. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Denise Antolini in support. No one else is signed up to testify. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? If not, members, questions? Quick question for DLNR. Do you know the dollar amount that would be needed? I know you told us last year, but I didn't look it up.
So right now, Chair Lowen, we don't know the actual amount that we're going to need. And that's because when we enter the accreditation process, we're going to be working with the commission to determine what standards apply to the agency. And until we learn what standards apply, we're not really going to know an accurate amount. But for your consideration, we do believe that these standards will apply to the equipment, the training, and potentially repairs to our facilities, which could mean CIP improvements. Ballpark estimation, it could be several $1 million.
Well, as far as the appropriation in the bill to kind of get started with, do you know what amount that should be?
I think if we look at least $1 million in the first year, that would be a good start.
Okay. Okay. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? All right, if not, we'll recess for decision-making. All right, we're reconvening for decision-making on the 9:30 a.m. agenda First up, SB 966 relating to disposal of solid waste. We're just going to defect the date on this to June 30, 3000 and move this forward. Any discussion, members? If not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Chair, voting on SB 966, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both vote aye. Representative Gates is excused, and Representative Kahaloa. Aye. Representative Peruso. Aye. Representative Whitson.
Aye.
And looks like Rep. Ward is also excused. And Chair, your measure is adopted. Oh, sorry. Any noes or with reservations? No. Okay. And Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you. Senate Bill 54 relating to gas-powered leaf blowers. We're going to go ahead and move this forward. We're going to make some technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. We will adopt the suggested amendments from Ted Boland regarding the definition of gas-powered leaf blowers and link that to the decibels. And we will insert a savings and severability clause and defect the date to June 30th, 3000. Members, any discussion? If not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Chair, voting on SB 54, noting the excused absences of Reps. Gates and Ward. Are there any with reservations? Any noes? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you. And for Senate Bill 506, although I appreciate the intent of this, I am going to defer this. I feel there's just more important things to work on at this time, and by the logic here, we should probably put a label on everything, including, every hamburger, for example. Might be helpful to put a climate warning label on those. So we're going to defer this at this time. Moving on to Senate Bill 70 relating to Conservation and Resources Enforcement Program accreditation. We will adopt DLNR's suggestion to change the date to 2029. Note in the committee report a suggested appropriation of $1 million and then defect the date to June 30, 3000. With that, members, any discussion? If not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Voting on SB 70, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Are there any reservations? Are there any noes? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, and we are adjourned. All right, we are here for a joint committee hearing with the Committees on Energy and Environmental Protection and Committee on Higher Education and Technology. It is Tuesday, March 21st, 11 a.m., conference room 325. We have one bill on this agenda, Senate Bill 1520, relating to the Hawaii Pacific Hydrogen Hub. This requires DBET to work with UH on workforce development activities that support the development of the Hawaii Pacific Hydrogen Hub and other related aspects of the state's hydrogen industry, and appropriates funds to DBET for the Hawaii Pacific Hydrogen Hub. And first up to testify is University of Hawaii. Oh, hello.
Hello. Thank you. Good morning. So I am here. I'm Della Teraoka, the interim Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs with the UH Community Colleges. I also just did some stairs, sorry. So yes, we have provided testimony and we stand in support with our testimony, and I'm here if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And the Hawaii State Energy Office.
Aloha Chairs, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Maria Tome with the Hawaii State Energy Office. We support this bill. And we are engaged with the University of Hawaii on a project that we are already working together. The full application for the Hawaii Pacific Hydrogen Hub is due to the United States Department of Energy by April 7th, with pre-selection interviews through summer and selection notifications anticipated in autumn of 2023. And so we're working together with the community colleges also on the Good Jobs Hawaii program. So this is one of the areas of focus, and we thank you for this opportunity to testify in support.
Thank you. And then DBET, Chris Sadayasu in support, and Servco Pacific in support, and then 3 additional individuals in support and 1 in opposition. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? Members, any questions?
I have questions. I have questions for DBET, but they're not here, so.
Do you want to ask the Energy Office?
Okay, I'll try the Energy Office. I'm just curious about what this specifically will look like in terms of workforce development activities. I'm just looking for some concrete examples.
Okay, so the Good Jobs Hawaii Challenge is the project that we're working on with the University of Hawaii. And so there are several phases there, and it's federally funded by the U.S. Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration. So on the energy side of it, we are working with potential employers. And so once the hydrogen hub is defined, assuming that we get approved, and there are numerable projects in there, we'd be working with the employers to identify what is it that they need to support the Hawaii workforce, and then developing that with the UH colleges and also the employers and others in our community. So
Okay.
I don't know what more information.
With that, within that larger Good Jobs Hawaii framework, then how big of a role do you anticipate this focus on hydrogen to play in the energy section?
It is potentially significant, especially in the longer term, because it is a form of stored energy. It can be used in transportation. It can be used in electricity production, and it can also be produced with excess electricity production. So there is a great potential, especially in the long term.
Okay. This is just because it's something that we haven't really fleshed out our approach to. So I'm just curious about what you anticipate the relative weight of that kind of work in the workforce development stuff. But okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, members? Rep. Ward.
Thank you, Chair. Could I follow up with that? Of the billions of dollars that is going into this, we are competing with one of, 7 or 8 hubs that are going to be established. What is this bill contingent upon us winning and becoming one of the hubs, or we already know we're going to be a hub and therefore we're just prepping this to get ready for it?
We are hoping that we will be selected as a hub. And even if we are not selected as a hub, we do see that hydrogen will play a role in our energy future. I don't know if that
So this bill
answers
is
it.
not contingent upon winning, even though it would
It
put a
really
big
depends
hole
on
in
the
the...
wording, yeah. So I guess that would be up to the committee, you know, how it's worded. Whether there would be anything there if we didn't win that project. So I would turn it back to you guys.
Were you at the auditorium last week when the biotechnology people talked about e-combustible, where there's a hydrogen electricity producing plant in Spain? In other words, the state of the art of hydrogen, is it that well advanced that this is really substantive and not just R&D and wishful thinking?
There is a combination of development work and stuff that is already in use and in place today, so it's a continuum. So you have some stuff that hasn't been developed yet but will be part of our energy picture, and some that is actually here now. For example, we have some hydrogen vehicles already on the road in Hawaii.
How many do we have?
Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't been
How
tracking
about
that.
Japan? Japan leads, right? Japan leads in hydrogen. How much?
I'm sorry, I do not have those numbers. That would be another.
Does the other testifier know any of those numbers? The state of the art of hydrogen? Okay, so what's the amount of money should be in the bill is the last question.
I have
Because
not
there's a...
discussed it. Yeah,
there's
I
a-
don't know what was in mind by the drafters of the bill.
But it seems as though if we don't become a hub, it's going to be really hard to get this thing off the ground. So even though I know it's not, as you said, dependent upon it, it seems like it would be dealt a considerable blow. Do we have any idea of the probability of our winning it? Do we have any inside look at that?
We, of course, believe that we have the best team assembled of any of the other teams. Of course, we don't know the specifics of the other teams, but Hawaii is, I believe, in a good position because we have a lot of really strong participants in our application.
Okay. Thank you, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have some further questions, thanks. Just kind of following up on similar questions, but in terms of workforce development, what are the specific skills that relate to the
The energy.
furtherance of a hydrogen economy that are not currently held by, what is the difference between this and other clean energy jobs or other kinds of workforce development?
That's
I mean,
actually
is
one of
there
the
an
first
identified need
steps.
for this that you know of? I mean, you're supporting the bill,
Yeah.
so you should know the answer.
One of the first steps in the Good Jobs Hawaii Challenge in the energy sector, because we are at phase 1, is working with the employers to identify what are the skills that are needed that they are not seeing available.
Right,
that
but
Hawaii
this
people
says,
could-
this isn't
could fill.
about the Good Jobs program that
Right.
you're referencing. This is specific to workforce development surrounding hydrogen alone, and I
Right.
wonder if it might be challenging to even know what the needs are of employers, since there are no employers. Like, is this
Yeah.
a little premature?
Well, we're working to get some of that information together because it has to be in our application. So we actually have been reaching out to the folks who would be employers, assuming that we got it, to find out what they're needing. So that's being put together right now, but it's not public, and it, won't be in
Right,
time
but do you
for
know what
this.
the workforce needs are specific to hydrogen? You don't know?
We have a pretty good idea of general, but as far as specific numbers, I don't
Not
know
numbers, but
that.
just can you tell me, like, what are those skills and why do they differ from skills people might have now? I mean, is it, engineers
Yeah.
or like,
Well-
what is the specific thing that has to do with the hydrogen economy that would be different than other
So
types
we've
of
been
renewable
looking at
energy?
I think it would be more on the transmission and storage, the transport, transmission and storage of the hydrogen. So that's what we're looking into now, because it is a fuel, right? And it's either pressurized or cooled in order to be able to transport it and store it. And so
Yeah.
that is a unique aspect of it.
There's the whole conversation going on at that end of the table, apparently. Okay, and then in terms of the appropriation for the Hawaii Pacific Hydrogen Hub, that language in the bill is specific to the hydrogen hub. So I'm curious because my understanding with this application was that it did not require state funding, that it was going to be federal funding plus private funding for the current application for the hydrogen hub.
It could, I mean, if state funding is available, that could be counted towards match.
But is it required or not? Is it part of the application or not?
It's not, a certain level of state funding is not required.
Okay. Okay. And if the application is not granted, I mean, if you don't win this, you know, competitive process through the Department of Energy, what would the vision be then?
So in the process of preparing the application, you know, we're identifying a lot of potential. And so those parts of it that have the potential to proceed and the funding to proceed, I do think would continue to some extent. But of course, if you have the federal support, the whole point of that is that it would happen more quickly and more things would
What's the amount of federal funding that will come in if you win this?
I would need to check and get back to you on that. Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions, members? All right, if not, we're gonna recess. We'll come back for decision-making. We have oh, go ahead.
There's some other, do you have another 11:30? People are in town, so I moved to 11:30.
We're in the 11:30.
Lisa Martin says she has another meeting.
Okay, we're gonna come back for decision-making. We have a joint EEP transportation agenda at 11:30, and we will decision-make on this after that agenda. So recess.
Aloha, everyone. We are convening the Committee on Transportation as well as the Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection for the purposes of our 11:30 a.m. agenda on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. We're here for two bills, SB 965 and SB 1024. First, we're going to start off with SB 965. One second. Okay. Here providing testimony, we have DLNR in support. I'd also note before we start that there's a lot going on right now, and we do have session at 12 as well as multiple decision-making. So if we could be brief, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Sure. Aloha chairs, vice chairs, committee members, Laura Ka'akua for DLNR. The department stands on our testimony and support, and I'm available for questions. Mahalo.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development in person, providing support.
Aloha chairs, Office of Planning and Sustainable Development stands on our testimony and support. Mahalo.
All right, thank you. We have the Maui Metropolitan Planning Organization in support. And if not, we're going to move on to the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and Climate Protectors Hawaii. Mr. Boland, in support.
Thank you, Chair Todd. Thank you, chairs, members, vice chairs. Ted Boland for the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and the Climate Protectors Hawaii. When I saw this bill, I said, what is green infrastructure? And I learned it's a range of measures that use plant or soil systems, including trees, permeable pavement, or other permeable surfaces or substrates, stormwater harvest and reuse, or landscaping to conserve water and reduce flows to sewer system or surface waters. Transportation systems are a great opportunity to do some good planning and to save some water runoff and also to prevent some carbon emissions. So the groups that I represent are strongly in support of this bill, and we urge you to pass it. Thank you very much. Available for questions.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to testify on this measure? Please proceed.
Hi, chairs and vice chairs and members of the committee. My name is Aaron Ishikawa, testifying on behalf of AeroX Ventures and strongly in support of this measure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Okay, if not, then I think Angela, you wanted to testify?
Aloha, Akayaka chairs, vice chairs, and the committees. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. So the purpose of this act is to improve the quality of life and to plan for transportation systems, green infrastructure, or to plan transportation systems, infrastructure, and incorporate green infrastructure to achieve sustainability goals. We just wanted to provide comments that through the city's Honolulu Complete the Streets program, some of these goals are achieved, and so perhaps the state can consider working collaboratively with the city. I'm going to point to this program, Honolulu Complete the Streets. It is committed to implementing solutions that improve safety, accessibility, and comfort for all users, encourage physical activity, and reflect community needs and character. And the plan in the Complete the Streets program focuses on residential concerns, health, equity, economy, and environment. It incorporates trees, vegetation, green infrastructure into the designs to mitigate environmental impacts, and responsibly manages stormwater runoff. So it would be a good idea to collaborate with the city because it already has an ongoing project that addresses some of the concerns in this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to testify on this measure? Okay, if not, members, do you have any questions?
Sure.
Rep. Ward, go ahead.
The Department of Transportation, Mr. Stiffen, this is quite a recipe for your department. I have a very simple question. One of the things you'll be doing is minimizing stormwater runoff and replenishment of the water table. How will you minimize stormwater runoff? What are some of the things that you'll do?
So we already have our stormwater management program that we're required to run for our highways and harbors. And our airports areas has it as well. So in those areas, we try to make sure that we minimize whatever goes into the system by minimizing runoff from the properties themselves. I cannot control other properties where stormwater comes from other properties, but we can control it based on the designs of our own facilities.
So how do you, yours is not the big tubes that go in front of the drains, is it?
So some of those socks are done for construction. During the construction periods, we'll put in those tubes to make sure that debris from construction don't go down the drains. But what we try to do is design things accordingly to ensure that we have runoff going onto vegetated areas versus coming into our storm drains. So it's in design that we can minimize it. We definitely cannot take care of it from other people's properties. That's what the storm drains are for on our system. But when we design our facilities, we try to minimize
New
what
ones
goes
or
into.
redesigning old existing runoff?
I think to the extent possible on our system, when we design new or when we touch a facility, we can try and see how we can get greener operations, how we can get our storm water to run off into different areas where it can be recharging versus going into our storm drains.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any additional comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is SB 1024, Senate Draft 2. And we're going to open up with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development in support.
Chairs, members, Office of Planning and Sustainable Development stands on our testimony and support. Mahalo.
All right, thank you. Actually, the State Department of Transportation, also in support.
Fellow chairs, vice chairs, and members, we stand in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Hawaii State Energy Office in support.
Chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee, we stand on our written testimony in support and are here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Climate Protectors Hawaii, Mr. Bolin, in support.
Thank you again, chairs, vice chairs, and many members of the two committees. Transportation is the largest sector of greenhouse gas emissions. So if we're going to meet our goal for greenhouse gas to be carbon negative by 2045 at the latest, we need to work on transportation. And so this is an important bill, and the Climate Protectors Hawaii are in strong support. The goals that we're setting with the give a potential to reduce a lot of the emissions, and we need to move to a system with more electric chargers. So I hope that we get these working groups together and can produce. Currently, we're 2% of the cars are electric, and we're gonna be moving that direction. California and New York have already banned new internal combustion engines in 2035, I believe. So in the not too distant future, we're going to have electric cars or some zero emission vehicles, and we need to start planning. So these bills are great, and I hope you'll pass them. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Ulupono Initiative in support.
Good morning, Chair Todd, Chair Loan, members of the committees. Micah Munikata here on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We'll stand on our testimony in support. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. And lastly, we have Aero X Ventures or Aero 10 Ventures. Proceed.
Hi. Chairs, vice chairs, and members of committee, my name is Aaron Ishikawa. On behalf of AeroX Ventures, we stand in support of the measure.
All right, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to testify on this measure? Okay, please be brief though. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, and the committees. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES very briefly. I'm just testifying to provide a comment that perhaps because we're dealing with transportation, and then it requests working with the mayor or the mayor's appointee, and there should be consideration to also include Department of Transportation Services, especially because the city's bus came out with the electric fleet. They upgraded their fleet, and it's something to consider, to put into this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. You did great. Any additional testimony? If not, members, do you have any questions on this measure? Report?
Thank you.
Please be
Thank you,
brief,
Chair.
though, if possible.
Yes, I will be very brief.
Thank you.
Ted, very briefly. To reach 2045, transportation, I understand half of the transportation pollution is air travel. Is that correct? Is there any?
I believe that I'm not sure about half, but yes, air travel is a big part of the emissions. I was referring to ground transportation in particular because we have such a big amount of emissions from air, and it's so hard to do something about that. It's easier to do something on the ground.
The question is there anything that's being done or will be done regarding the air traffic, the huge jet?
There are developments with people trying to develop hydrogen fuel green hydrogen fuel that can be used, and there are also technology, I think, developments for electricity, for electric air, but that would be more inter-island in the near future. It's difficult, though. We've got a ways to go on the technology for air.
Exactly. Good.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Members, any additional questions? If not, do you want to recess for DM or just go straight? Okay, we're just going to go straight into decision-making on this agenda. And we're going to open up with SB 965 relating to green transportation infrastructure. My recommendation is we move this forward, basically inserting the language from the House Companion, which is very similar, but you know, I like our take on it, I guess. So that would be from HB 1278 HD1. The only exception is we are going to remove some of the findings from the introduction to the bill, just to streamline it and make things a little bit more concise while leaving the purpose section intact. Members, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, if not, you're comfortable with that? Okay. And Vice Chair for the vote on SB 965.
Thank you, Chair. Transportation Committee voting on SB 965, Senate Draft 2. The Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Representative Ayu. Aye. Representative Evslin. Aye. Representative Hashimoto. Aye. Representative Kitagawa. Aye. Representative Martin. Aye. Representative Onishi. Aye. Representative Matsumoto. Aye. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection, same recommendation. Members, any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Chair voting on SB 965. Chair elects to pass with amendments. Both Chair and Vice Chair both vote aye. Rep Gates.
Aye.
Rep Kahaloa.
Aye.
Rep Caruso.
Aye.
Rep Woodson.
Aye.
And Rep Ward.
Aye.
Chair, your member is adopted.
Thank you.
Okay, and for SB 1024, I'm going to defer to the Chair for Energy and Environmental Protection to read off some suggested amendments that we've collaborated on.
Yes,
Go ahead.
thank you, Chair. All right, the amendments to SB 1024 are, first, instead of creating a new part, move this under 225P-7, where we already also have a goal to decarbonize the transportation sector. Move both working groups to session law, require interim annual reports each year, and a final report due 20 days prior to the 2027 session, and then put in provisions that the working groups will cease to exist January 1st, 2027. For both working groups, also add a provision to include consideration of reducing VMT and demand management, and a provision to consider equity concerns, including economic and accessibility impacts to low-income communities. We will remove the references to the Trans-Pacific travel, so that second working group will just focus on inter-island. And for the Clean Ground Transportation Working Group, for the first working group, clarify that the membership is the chair of the House to the standing committees in the House and Senate or their designees. And then we'll add the chairperson of the House Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection or their designee. And then we will adopt the State Energy Office's suggested amendment regarding the number of transportation hubs and defect the date to June 30, 3000. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, Rep Kila for the vote on SB 1024.
Voting on SB 1024 SD2, the Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the presence of all members, any members choosing to vote with reservations, any members choosing to vote no. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection, same recommendation.
Voting on SB 1024, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Both Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting all members present, are there any with reservations? Any noes? Chair, your measure is adopted.
All right, thank you, and we are adjourned.
Gavel in. All right, we are reconvening the 11 a.m. agenda, Joint Committees on Energy and Environmental Protection and Higher Ed and Technology for decision-making on one bill, Senate Bill 1520, relating to the Hawaii Pacific Hydrogen Hub. And for this bill, the recommendation is just to defect the date to June 30th, 3000, and move this forward for further consideration. Members, any discussion? All right, if not, Vice Chair.
Oh, voting on SB 1520, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Both Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting all members present. Any members with reservations? Any members voting no? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you.
Higher Education and Technology, same recommendation. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 1520 SD2, Chair recommends to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Evslin.
Aye.
Representative La Chica.
Aye.
Representative Martin.
Aye.
Representative Martinez.
Aye.
Representative Matayoshi.
Aye.
Representative Quinlan. Excused. Representative Todd.
Aye.
Representative Woodson.
Aye.
Representative Garcia. Excused. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
All right, we're adjourned.